want to talk to you about today is what do we do with employees to give them feedback in a way that they can hear it, they can take it in, and they can shift their behavior and dissipate some of that defensiveness. Not make it go away, which is not a goal, but make it get a little bit less. So let's talk about that. So 2 purposes of feedback and only 2 purposes. Who knows? What's the purpose of giving feedback? Improve behavior, make it better, or reinforce. Thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. And those are the only 2 reasons to get feedback. And I'm going to suggest that you do something that I'm going to call check your motives at the door. So if you're giving feedback for any other reason other than to help someone improve or do something differently, or to continue doing what you're doing, I'm going to say check your motives at the door. For example, I help companies manage the hiring process. And there was a young man who interviewed for a training position in a company, and it was joint interviews. It was a group of several people who were doing interviews. And he was the most qualified candidate, but the people who were interviewing him didn't like him. So he gets the job, but the team who interviewed isn't feeling great. They think the guy's kind of a jerk. And he says to them, "Oh, I'm so excited to be on your team, and I think I was your first choice." And they look at him, and they said, "Actually, you are our third. I wouldn't want to be on that team." So check your motives at the door. Purpose of feedback, again, shift behavior, improve it, or keep doing what you're doing. Gentlemen, every Friday, you buy your wives or girlfriends or mothers flowers. Every single Friday for a year. And she never says anything. What should you do? Yeah, you should go out and buy yourself a really, really nice Rolex. Right? Because if she doesn't appreciate it and she's not demonstrating it, why keep doing it? Same as employees. So let's talk about how to do this. So, 2 key elements of feedback: attributes and behaviors. Attributes and behaviors, not just one. I help organizations manage succession planning to make sure that high potentials have a place to go. And as a result, I read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of performance appraisals, our favorite year-end process. And every time I read them, I see the same thing. In any country, in any part of the US, I see puffed breakfast children's cereal with milk. Sugar corn pops. No food, no nutrients, just sugar and milk. Shari's a really great team player. We really enjoy having her. She works really hard, and she's had a great year. Thanks for contributing. It's unfortunate because they don't actually say anything, and your employees need guidance. Your feedback is their compass and their guide. And without it, it's like a little bit like that movie that came out several years ago, The Blair Witch Project. Who saw that film? Horrible film, right? Yeah, I ended a relationship over that film. Sitting in the movie, I'm thinking, this is the worst film I have ever seen. And I turned to the guy I've been dating for 2 years, and he says, "I love this movie, it's brilliant." That was the last day of our relationship. Truly, I thought, I cannot date this man. But the movie made a really great point. So in the film, it's a group of high school students, and they're creating a documentary. And they're in the mountains in Maryland, and they're looking for the Blair Witch, which is a little like the Loch Ness Monster. And they go into the woods, and they're camping, and they're looking for the Loch Ness Monster, and they get lost, and they get frustrated. And when one of them gets particularly frustrated, you may remember, they throw their map in the river. And now they have no direction. And the rest of the movie, they walk around the same river doing laps. And I am in visceral pain, right? So this is a little bit like managing people without feedback. They don't know what to do, right? It's like going on a road trip. They're taking their kids from New York to Florida. They didn't bring a map. Sooner or later, they end up in Kansas. They have no idea how they got there. So if you don't give your employees feedback and coach them in a timely way and being really clear and direct, it's the same thing. So attributes and behaviors. We're going to practice. Team player, attribute or behavior? Throw it out at me. Attribute. Hard to work with. We love those people. Attribute. Someone said behavior. How do you demonstrate being hard to work with? Give me a couple of examples. You're nasty and you're surly and you come in late and you don't keep your word. That is a behavior. So if you really want people to shift their behavior and do something differently, which again is another purpose of feedback, you want to give attributes and behaviors. Here's an example. I was working with a manager at a large mutual fund company in New York. And I coach a lot of managers on how to help their employees improve. So she says to me, "I have this employee who's super aggressive, and I just don't know what to do." And when I gave her feedback, she got really, really defensive, and nothing got better. And I said, "Well, what did you tell her?" And she said, "Well, I said she's aggressive." I said, well, aggressive could be a lot of things. It could be persistent. It could be that you call until you get a yes. It could be tenacious. It could be a variety of things. Someone's going to get defensive if they can't picture what you're talking about. Good feedback is like a video camera. The person can see exactly what happened, and they can see it go by. And that enables them to shift their behavior. So good feedback happens in a timely way. I'm going to recommend you practice the 24-hour guideline and the 1-week rule. The 24-hour guideline and the 1-week rule. What this means is someone needs to be able to picture what you're talking about. And if they can't, it's a missed opportunity. And you just need to wait till it happens again. And if it's a problem, it will. Also, if you wait longer than that to give feedback, they're going to think you hold a grudge. And that's not the manager you want to be. So again, we're practicing timely feedback, right? And we're going to be clear and specific. So I said to her, I said, well, tell me what she does that demonstrates aggression. And she says, well, if she leaves a meeting and she's upset, she comes back to her desk and she slams stuff around. She slams down the phone and she slams her credenza and she slams her drawers, and it creates some tension on the team, and it creates just a sense of hostility, and it's bugging people. I said, well, that's what you need to tell her. She said, I can't tell her that. It'll hurt her feelings. I see. So we're just not going to say anything and hope it gets better, right? I'm sure some of you are possibly maybe doing this at your company, or maybe your bosses or someone you know, right? It's not going to get better. It's going to stay the same, or it's going to get worse. And it's not those people who leave the company. It's your great people. Your people who really need coaching and feedback, they're going to stay put because they're not so marketable. So we need to get our courage together, and we need to give feedback. And a couple things. Don't wait for the upset to go away. Don't wait for the defensiveness to go away. You should be really, really grateful for it. I love managers who say, I'd really love to give Shari more feedback, but she gets so defensive, and I just don't want to hurt her feelings. That's about you, not about them. Human beings are wired to defend themselves. We're the people with little children in the room. Who has little kids? When you teach little kids to cross the street, right, you tell them to do what? Look left and look right. And that's to keep them safe. And when people get feedback and they get defensive, it's the same thing. It's to keep us safe. So don't expect them not to get defensive. Just wait for it. And when they get upset and they cry and they carry on, and they might go, oh, awesome. Okay, they're still breathing and they're human. This is very, very good news, right? And when they stop crying, then you have a conversation. You be clear. You be specific. You paint a picture. And lastly, you offer an alternative way to be. So even the best managers, when I see them give feedback, there's something they miss. They tell the person what happened. They state the consequence, but they don't offer another way to do things. And I always give people the benefit of the doubt. I really think that if we knew another way to do something, we would do it. So with the woman with being aggressive, here's what I would have said. I would have said, Susie, I've noticed something. When you leave a meeting and you're upset, you come back to your desk and you slam down your phone and you slam your credenza, and it's creating a sense of tension on the team. Do you know what I'm saying? And you create a dialogue, because good feedback is a dialogue. It's not you barfing on your employee, it's you having a conversation with them. Involve them in the process. Here's my suggestion, is that when you're upset, you find another way to dispel that upset before coming back to the team. It's a suggestion and a request. Are you willing to do that? And she says, well, I guess. Right? What do you mean? Well, take a walk around the block. Have a drink. Have a smoothie. They're good for you. Protein, spirulina. When you feel comfortable, come back to your desk. Are you willing to do that? So you've addressed it, preferably within 24 hours, but surely within a week. You're clear and you're specific. You mention attributes and behaviors so she can see exactly what happened. You involve her in the process, and you give her another way to be. So if you're really looking at employee retention, what does this have to do with employee retention? We know that people leave organizations, the number one reason, because there's no place to go and no place to grow. The only way to help your employees grow and develop is to give them opportunities and coach them along the way. Find your courage. Get to know your employees. Be direct with them. Make a difference with them every day by being honest, and they'll be loyal to you and they'll be committed. Thank you.